Wingham Wildlife Park, located in the southeast of England, is an ever-growing zoo which now contains the greatest number of species of any zoo in Kent. Home to many species you've seen, and even more you may never have even heard of before. The zoo holds a great diversity of species, but it wasn't always this way.
I'm Tony Binskin and I'm the Managing Director of the park.
Tony has been working with the park since it opened in 1986 as Wingham Bird Park.
It was a pet shop actually in the 80s. The park was quite run down. It was more goats and wallabies, chickens and ducks, a few owls, and a few parrots.
But that all changed in 2008 when the park's ownership was passed on to Tony, which for Tony was a dream come true.
From a very young boy, I've always wanted my own park.
This gave Tony and the rest of the Binskin family the opportunity to take the park in a new direction.
We chose certain animals to put in first, like we chose the tigers, the penguins, all more like sort of iconic animals that start bringing the money in so we could start developing the park.
And develop they did. In just a few short years, new and amazing species arrived at the park, prompting expansions to accommodate even more species, which in turn led to further expansions for additional arrivals. The park now holds over 200 species across 26 acres, with a dinosaur exhibit, 2 cafes, an indoor and outdoor play area, and mini golf. There is no sign of slowing down, with plans to expand even further, whilst improving their existing enclosures. But now a potential new arrival is stirring up excitement. A chance sample of orangutan urine revealed that Awan was pregnant, quickly becoming the talk of the park.
Oh, I'm over the moon. Over the moon. I think it's so good for the park. It's so good for Jin and yeah, you wouldn't believe how much I'm over the moon about it.
At Wingham Wildlife Park, every new life is a cause for celebration. But the news of a pregnant orangutan is truly extraordinary, both from the perspective of the team, but also for the species as a whole. Orangutans are found in Southeast Asia across 2 large islands, Sumatra, an Indonesian island, and Borneo, which is comprised of 3 countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei Darussalam. Within these 2 islands, 3 orangutan species can be found. The Sumatran orangutan, found only to the north of Sumatra. The Bornean orangutan, spread across fragmented regions of the island. And lastly, the latest orangutan and great ape species to be recognized, the Tapanuli orangutan, found just below the current Sumatran orangutan range. The species found at Wingham Wildlife Park is the Bornean orangutan. The Bornean orangutan inhabit dense forests, peat swamps, and towering canopies. These gentle giants are more than just friendly people of the forest. They also play a crucial role in maintaining their ecosystem by spreading seeds that help the forest grow, many of which solely rely on orangutans for dispersal. Sadly, in just a few decades, the Bornean orangutan population has plummeted by over 50%, despite their role in rainforest ecosystems and their charismatic intelligence, leaving only an estimated 45 to 65,000 individuals in the wild today. The reasons? Habitat destruction and fragmentation, along with illegal hunting and human-wildlife conflict. Borneo was once blanketed by a staggering amount of rainforest. Estimates do vary, but around 76% of Borneo's landmass was covered in some form of rainforest, or about 74 million hectares. This has now drastically changed, with a loss of 30% of the total rainforest, an area larger than the United Kingdom. Although this is only an approximation, the actual area lost is likely far larger. Additionally, this does not take into account rainforest fragmentation and degradation, which contributes greatly to the quality of the rainforest and the species that call it home. The change to Borneo's habitat is so great that it is visible from space. There are many causes for the continued deforestation in Borneo, and with similar rainforests around the world. The first and most obvious reason is the use of wood itself, in industries relating to timber-based construction and other forms of manufacturing. The second is the clearing of land for the purposes of extracting coal, metals, and precious minerals, used in all form of manufacturing. Lastly, the largest contributor to rainforest clearance is for the purposes of agriculture. Whilst some areas will focus on typical arable or pastoral farming, the vast majority of the land in Borneo specializes in palm oil plantations. Palm oil is one of the most widely produced and essential vegetable oils in the modern world. Extracted from the fruit of the oil palm tree, this crop thrives in tropical climates. In Borneo, the palm oil industry has expanded significantly, transforming vast areas of rainforest into plantations. This is because it's a key ingredient in countless products, from food items like biscuits, instant noodles, and margarine, to cosmetics such as lipsticks, soaps, and shampoos. It's also used in industrial applications and as a feedstock for biofuels. Even some animal products rely on palm oil derivatives, and with demand for palm oil only ever increasing as populations and markets grow, the rainforest continues to shrink with the wildlife paying the price. However, removing palm oil is more difficult than you might think, while the environmental toll is undeniable. Replacing palm oil with alternative oils isn't a simple solution. Crops like soybean, sunflower, or rapeseed oil would require significantly more land to produce the same amount of oil, leading to potentially even greater environmental damage. Additionally, switching away from palm oil could increase production costs, making everyday goods more expensive and potentially causing other socioeconomic issues. To address this dilemma, sustainable practices are crucial. Certification schemes like Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, or RSPO, aim to ensure that production minimizes harm to the environment and wildlife. Protecting remaining rainforests in Borneo, restoring degraded areas, and creating wildlife corridors are essential steps to preserve biodiversity and give species like the orangutan a fighting chance. However, whilst the population continues to decline, conservation initiatives around the world are actively promoting captive breeding programs with the goal of one day bolstering the wild population. The hope is to eventually grow their numbers until they become stable again. Until then, zoos serve as both a vital arc for the species and an important way to raise awareness for their conservation. This is why it's so special to have a pregnant orangutan, as now more than ever, every individual counts. However, the team is not out of the woods just yet. There are many challenges left to overcome, and it is not made easy as working with primates, especially orangutans, has its own set of difficulties.
My name's Holly. I'm Deputy Head of Primates here at the park. I've been working with the orangs for 2 years now, and what an experience it has been.
Wingham holds 4 orangutans: Belian, Molly, Jin, and Awan. Our 2 couples each have their own spacious enclosures, which include both indoor and outdoor areas. Belian and Molly share one enclosure, while Jin and Awan share the other. While they are certainly quite graceful and calm-acting creatures, there are, however, still some precautions that need to be taken if the keepers want to look after the orangutans, along with the rest of the species at the park, without hurting the animals or getting hurt themselves.
The smaller primates, they're kind of more interactive because you can go in with them and far not safer. All primates have their dangers, but you can go in with them. They're a little bit more interactive. They'll be jumping around you all the time. And then you have the bigger species, the gibbons, the vervets, and the macaques. They're far more dangerous. So you always have to be thinking on your toes, always have to be 10 steps ahead and making sure that you're always acting in a safe way. Now, orangs are probably one of the more challenging species that we work with. They are quite destructive. They're very, very strong, and they're very intelligent. So you always have to be thinking how you can adapt things, how you can keep them thinking and on their toes all the time, and how you can truly show off how intelligent that species actually is.
They're completely different to the chimps, where the chimps are a bit, where the orangs are more like gentle with you. They're more, they understand a lot more when you're talking to them. They, if I got 6 nuts in my hand and I put them in my pocket and give him 5, he knows he's only got 5. He will wait and wait and wait, especially Belian, will wait until he gets that 6th nut.
This is why it's so important to give orangutans enrichment to stimulate their minds and bodies, As Holly explains,
Tangs, we like to give them a lot of roof feed, means that they can build up on their muscles up there as well. We can also try and give them different log feeders, and we can smear different condiments on them. Things like peanut butter is one of their favourites, and honey. Then we can also give them things like cage feeders. We can give them strap feeders as well. And they also like a good tyre as well that they can throw around. We have some barrels in the enclosures as well, and they can just swing from them and hang around in them as well.
on top of their enrichment, the orangutans also undergo training with the keepers so that they can be more easily looked after, using positive reinforcement to teach behaviors that allow for health checks and monitoring. From opening their mouths for dental exams to presenting their arms for blood draws, this training ensures the orangutans are comfortable during routine health assessments. It also prepares them for more intensive medical treatments if ever needed, reducing stress for both the animals and their caregivers while ensuring the best possible care. Each of the orangutans have their own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to training, and it takes practice before they can become acquainted with it all. For Awan, this is especially true as she continues to learn the ropes after moving from Monkey World back in July of 2024.
Jim is a mischievous boy, whereas Awan, she's a little bit more reserved in her personality. She takes a lot of time to kind of warm up to people. We are kind of still building her trust a little bit, but as you can see, she's come down for some extra treats this morning.
In order for our team to help Awan through her first pregnancy, she will need to overcome her current shyness and learn fast in order for new tests to be conducted to ensure she and her baby are healthy. As even by themselves, orangutan pregnancies and years of parenting are full of difficulties.
My name is Georgia. I am the on-site vet for Wingham Wildlife Park. I've been here about coming up to about 2 years now. Compared to other animals we worked with, obviously they're generally fairly long. The orangutan pregnancies are about 8 months, whereas a lot of the other animals that we have on site tend to have shorter gestation periods. Also, I suppose when it comes to ultrasound scanning and things like that, we have to really get their cooperation a lot because, of course, we have to be so careful with how we work with these guys. I think it takes a bit more persuasion to get them to cooperate with things like that. Other than that, really, obviously, a lot of the same principles apply, really. It's just basically making sure that the mum's healthy, that she's putting on weight nicely.
Orangutans share around 97% of their DNA with humans, making them remarkably similar, especially when it comes to pregnancy and medical care. However, there are still key differences, so keepers and vets must adapt human knowledge to meet the unique needs of these incredible primates.
They're fairly similar from a medical point of view, you know, they can get a lot of the same conditions that we can get because we are both great ape species. Their gestation is a little bit shorter than ours. Our average human gestation is about 9 months, theirs is around 8. And the other thing is that the babies, when they are born, they are a little bit smaller than the average human baby as well. Other than that, there's a lot of things that are fairly similar, really. We do refer to human medicine a lot with our great apes. With our captive species, we're able to do a lot more monitoring of their health and things like that. So, of course, problems that they might have in the wild can be picked up on much sooner here. And also we can kind of deal with those things and make sure that they're having obviously very good food supplies and things like that, and having any supplements that they might need. And obviously then looking towards the safety, obviously once the baby is born, obviously in captivity we're not having to worry about predators with our young, so generally the females can be a little bit more relaxed with their babies than they could be in the wild, because of course they're not having to worry about that so much. Obviously a lot of the time they will still show those behaviours. Really it's less of a concern, really.
Of course, it's not just predators that orangutan mothers need to worry about. Human activity is severely impacting the species' ability to recover. And it is not just from habitat loss and fragmentation. There is also the direct threat of poaching, and particularly the pet trade. Young orangutans are forcibly taken from their mothers, often resulting in the mother being killed. Removing even a single orangutan from the wild is highly detrimental, as they have an extremely slow reproductive rate. Females typically have only 4 or 5 offspring in their lifetime, with babies taking around 8 years to learn the necessary survival skills before becoming independent. Even then, they won't reach sexual maturity until they are at least 10 years old. With hundreds being taken out of the wild, this can exacerbate the already declining species. Local conservations are working around the clock to prevent this from happening, with teams in place to move individuals that have unknowingly put themselves at greater risk into protected regions, or track down young orangutans that are taken into the pet trade and place them into safe reserves. But there is only so much they can do, and many will sadly slip through the gaps on top of the other threats. Even if there are no natural or human threats, parenting is no easy job.
I think there's lots of things that we have to be really wary of. I know with orangutans generally, it's that sort of post-birth phase that's going to be a big one, really. Our one is obviously she's a first-time mum, so it's just making sure that she's showing all those behaviours and that she's obviously rearing her baby really nicely, because of course that's the big one really, especially where a lot of these guys, the behaviours are just so natural to them that they're able to just crack on and get on with it themselves. But of course it does happen often enough that mums either don't quite connect with their baby, or they don't know quite how to look after them properly. So yeah, that's going to be, I think, the big one really for us, is just making sure that in that post-birth phase that she's doing everything she should do. I have every faith that she will, but you will never know until it happens, really.
There is still plenty of time before the due date, so until then, the keepers in the primate team and the orangutans can go about their days as usual, each with their own unique personalities, shaping their routines and their relationships.
Jin and Awan, they live together, but they're quite separate in their personalities. Whereas Belly and Molly, they're just so playful with each other. They want to spend time together. Sometimes they'll just cuddle up with some wood wool. So they're quite cute in their little relationship.
As with all individuals and relationships, nothing is set in stone, and there is plenty of room for growth. Many animals take time to adjust to their surroundings and a potential partner, gradually building trust and understanding through shared experiences, subtle interactions, and the comfort of routine. And Awan has certainly become more familiar with her surroundings and bolder than when she first arrived.
At the beginning, they kind of lived a little bit separately. They kind of kept out of each other's way. But as the months have gone on, their relationship has flourished. They do like to spend a lot of time together. They can be quite playful together as well. They're not very good at sharing food though sometimes, so they can be a little bit trouble. Especially Jin, he does like to try and steal Awan's food sometimes. Now, Belly and Molly have always been playful ever since we introduced them. They quite like a little bit of rough and tumble. They quite like to destroy things together. They'll quite often be seen trying to break the mesh and break the ropes as well in the enclosure. So them two use their intelligence and their strengths together. They do have a fantastic relationship though, and they've always been quite positive in their interactions as well.
Hopefully, Awan and Jin can form as strong a relationship as Belly and Molly, minus trying to destroy the enclosure. But with all the talk of relationship goals and crucial parenting skills, there's an important detail we've overlooked. Unlike some species where both parents share the responsibility of raising their young, in orangutans, the vast majority of parenting falls to the mother.
Making sure that she's being a very attentive mother is the main thing really that we'll be looking out for. If she starts leaving the baby on its own a lot and things like that, then that's when we start to get a bit concerned. Looking at how attentive she is to the baby, picking up on those basic behaviours, so like learning how to feed the baby and things like that. I imagine in the old collection she was in, I think she probably did witness and experience a lot of those things. But it's essentially just making sure that she's doing all of those behaviours herself. So yes, we want to make sure that she will hold on to baby for the first few months at the very least. Be a lot of sort of skin-to-skin contact and that kind of thing.
This is in stark contrast to the dad, particularly in the wild, as orangutans are solitary by nature, usually coming together only to breed. In captivity, however, groups and mating pairs are kept together, assuming each individual can get on with one another. Furthermore, unlike in the wild, the dads, whilst not typically involved, they are more tolerant of their young.
dad is involved for obviously the initial phase, and then that's kind of it. I think don't tend to have as much of a hands-on role as most people do with their parents. In orangutans that I've worked with in the past, I've seen there's been involvement of the male, and essentially in the sort of the rearing, oftentimes the dad will sort of be playing with the baby and will get involved sort of socially a bit more there. But yeah, definitely not, they're not big hands-on dads, orangutans in general. They don't have an established background for that at all, unfortunately.
Jin and other male orangutans are not at fault. This is just how orangutans have evolved, both in terms of their biology and behavior. This naturally puts more pressure on Awan, which is why the team is keeping a close eye on her.
We are super excited. It is our first one at the park, so that's pretty exciting. We're all a little bit apprehensive as well. We just want everything to go right. She is a first-time mum and Jin is a first-time dad, but we are very excited for both of them. We think they'll make amazing parents.
It's only natural to have a little anxiety. After all, the team only want the best for Awan and her baby. But that worry doesn't come from doubt, it comes from care. The team is simply being cautious, making sure everyone is ready for whatever comes next. At the same time, there's so much excitement. We've seen her grow, form bonds, and show signs that she has what it takes. Now the team wait with hopeful anticipation, ready to support her every step of the way. Next time, we catch up on Awan's progress. Say hello to the rest of the amazing orangutans, as well as some other species along the way. Then we dive into the world of primate keeping and take a walk in their shoes. Raising awareness and supporting conservation is key to securing the future of orangutans and other endangered and declining species, both in the wild and in human care. If you want to be part of their story, follow us on our social media accounts. Spread the word and help us make a difference.